Now, who would take on a London cabbie? Or for that matter, a Manchester cabbie or any other? Phone apps that allow minicabs to scoop up their fares now face a legal challenge to stop them operating. Newsnight has learned that London's taxi regulator, Transport for London, will tomorrow begin seeking the High Court's opinion as to whether a minicab app is legal or illegal. And what happens could affect the trade up and down the country. Here's our technology editor, David Grossman.
Minicabs have begun to invade the streets of London. Small cars charging a third less than ordinary cabs. Taxi drivers think, blimey, they'll be using scooters next.
This isn't the first time that London cabbies have seen their livelihoods under threat from newcomers. But these days, it's something more advanced than a stretched Fiat.
What's got the cabbies rankled is Uber. It's a car company that runs via a smartphone app. I can just jab a couple of buttons here and select a cab. I can see who the cab driver is. In this case, it's Ben. The car he's driving, it's a Toyota Prius, the registration number, and even how far away he is. And he should be getting here fairly quickly, according to this. Let me just check you look like your picture. I suppose that is you. Hello, Ben.
Hello, David.
Hi, can I get in?
London black taxis are an icon of London. I'm a Londoner. I love black taxis, and I'm sure they're here to stay. What we bring is another choice for consumers. It's up to Transport for London how they regulate the industry, and we very much welcomed their statement a few weeks ago that they welcome the use of smartphone apps in the private hire industry.
To counter the scourge of the minicabs, the black cab drivers were given two important protections. The first one, taxi! You can only do this with a black cab. If you want a minicab, you have to ring up the office and they'll dispatch someone out to you. Protection number two, that thing up there that you struggle to keep your eyes off, the meter. Only a licensed taxi is allowed to have a meter. With a minicab, you have to agree the fare in advance.
According to the law, no minicab shall be equipped with a taximeter, which is defined as a device for calculating the fare to be charged in respect of any journey by reference to the distance travelled or time elapsed since the start of the journey, or combination of both. So how does Uber work out its fares? Well, the driver hits the start button on his iPhone when we go, and at the end he hits stop. When I get my bill for the journey, which is charged to my credit card, I can see it's based both on the distance travelled and the time taken. It is therefore a meter, cry the London cabbies, and it's therefore illegal.
We haven't got any objections to Uber whatsoever. What we've got objections with and problems with is Transport for London not enforcing the law.
That is a meter, as far as you're concerned.
It's a meter as far as anyone's concerned. I mean, how can a device that measures time and distance and calculates the fare not be a meter? The whole objective of the Act is to prohibit private hire vehicles from having meters.
The cabbies are planning a legal challenge and a protest, which will, they say, bring London to a standstill on June the 11th. Other cities in the world have had similar Uber-inspired demonstrations. Uber, meanwhile, says this is all a matter for regulators.
So the role of Transport for London is to regulate the industry, so that's really a question for them. We very much welcome their statement a few weeks ago welcoming smartphone apps in the private hire industry. And I think it's important to note that the intent behind that regulation is public safety, and that's where Uber goes above and beyond.
Newsnight understands that as early as tomorrow, Transport for London will be commencing legal proceedings to try to get the High Court to give a binding judgment as to whether Uber is legal or illegal. The hope being that will be enough to get the cabbies to call off their protest.
But Uber isn't the end of this disruptive technological journey. One of Uber's biggest shareholders is Google, who today announced they'd begin building these driverless cars. It seems clear that, if this project works, Uber, or something like it, will power a driverless taxi revolution, using cars which look remarkably similar to those old minicab Fiats.